The soft chime of the proximity alert interrupted High Admiral Vraxen's morning meditation. His inner eyelids flickered with annoyance as 6 of his 7 arms activated separate console interfaces, while the 7th brought a ceremonial cup of Selkith nectar to his breathing orifice. "Report," he rumbled, the vibration carrying through his command chair to the floor of the Indomitable's cathedral-like bridge. "Anomaly at coordinates 227 Mark 43. High Admiral," his sensor officer replied. Energy signature consistent with artificial wormhole formation. Vraxen's dermal chromatophores rippled with interest, shifting from meditative blue to alert amber. The hegemony had received the transmission 3 standard cycles ago. A species calling themselves humans had achieved interstellar travel and requested formal contact. "Magnify Sector 4. Vraxen commanded, leaning forward as the massive viewscreen adjusted. Nothing appeared. "Further magnification," he ordered, irritation coloring his voice purple. Still nothing but stars. "Highest magnification," he finally demanded, all 7 arms now gripping his command chair. A tiny metallic glint finally resolved against the void, barely visible even at maximum enhancement. Vraxen's chromatophores involuntarily flushed crimson with disbelief, then violet with amusement. "That's their interstellar vessel. It's microscopic." Nervous laughter rippled through the bridge crew. The Indomitable stretched 15 kilometers from bow to stern. This human vessel couldn't be more than 100 meters long, smaller than the High Admiral's personal shuttle. "Establish communication," Vraxen commanded, his dermal colors settling into the formal gold and indigo pattern of diplomatic engagement. The massive screen shifted to reveal the interior of the human craft. A bipedal female with dark fur atop her head and clothed in a blue uniform stood at attention. "This is Captain Elena Chen of the Earth ship Pathfinder. On behalf of humanity, I extend greetings to the Galactic hegemony." Vraxen performed the 7-armed gesture of diplomatic recognition, though he couldn't keep amusement from tinting his formal colors. "High Admiral Vraxen welcomes the representatives of Earth," he responded in third person, as protocol demanded. "The High Admiral confesses surprise at your vessel's compact dimensions." The human's face remained impassive, though Vraxen noted a curious glint in her eyes. Perhaps their version of chromatophore communication. "Efficiency drives our design philosophy, High Admiral," she replied smoothly. "Size isn't everything." Something in her tone triggered Vraxen's deeply buried predatory instincts, but he dismissed the feeling. These humans were clearly no threat, barely more than clever primates who'd stumbled onto warp physics. "The High Admiral invites Captain Chen aboard the Indomitable for formal welcome ceremonies," he declared magnanimously. "I would be honored," Chen responded with a slight bow. After the transmission ended, Vraxen immediately connected to the Hegemony Council's secure channel. All 17 council members materialized as holographic projections around his command chair. "Esteemed Council," he began, not bothering to suppress his amused chromatophores, "the High Admiral has observed the human vessel. These creatures will integrate easily into the Hegemony's protective sphere. Their technology is primitive, their military capability negligible. Their vessels are comically tiny, fitting their status as a Category 3 pre-integration species." Later that night, as the Indomitable's crew prepared for the upcoming ceremony, Captain Chen sat alone in her temporary quarters aboard her ship. She removed a quantum-encrypted communicator from a hidden compartment in her uniform. "Eagle to nest," she transmitted. "Phase 1 complete. Target has fully committed to the assumption. Proceeding to Phase 2. She paused, allowing herself a small smile. "They have no idea what's coming." 3 standard cycles after first contact, the Galactic Hegemony hosted its centennial military capability exhibition. 17 species gathered at the Arcturus Proving Grounds to demonstrate their latest advancements, forge alliances, and, most importantly, establish their place in the unspoken hierarchy of galactic power. Captain Chen, now promoted to Commodore, stood alone among the towering alien delegates, watching as hegemony vessels performed synchronized maneuvers that darkened the local star with their massive shadows. Impressive, isn't it? High Admiral Vraxen materialized beside her, his chromatophores shimmering with pride. The 7th Fleet's dreadnoughts can generate enough firepower to sterilize a planetary surface in under 4 minutes. Very efficient, Chen replied diplomatically. She sipped from a glass of synthesized water, her only concession to the reception's exotic refreshments. Different approaches for different needs. Vraxen's secondary breathing vents fluttered, the hegemony equivalent of a condescending snort. Speaking of different approaches, the Council has granted your request for participation in tomorrow's demonstrations. As a courtesy to our newest associates, of course. His emphasis on courtesy wasn't subtle. 3 of his 7 arms performed a gesture that nearby hegemony officers clearly found amusing. We appreciate the opportunity, Chen said with a perfect smile that never reached her eyes. Perhaps you'd care to make the demonstration more interesting, Vraxen suggested, his skin flushing with the purple-gold pattern that indicated a formal challenge. What did you have in mind, Admiral? A simple comparison. Your finest vessel against one of our standard patrol cruisers. Basic weapons capabilities. Defensive systems. Maneuverability. His chromatophores rippled with anticipated victory. Purely educational. I accept, Chen replied without hesitation. Tomorrow at 800 hours. The exhibition arena filled beyond capacity the next morning. Alien dignitaries crowded observation platforms as the human vessel Defiant took position against the hegemony cruiser Inevitable Consequence. Ladies, gentlemen, and distinguished others, announced the hegemony master of ceremonies, we begin with standard weapons demonstration. Each vessel will target practice drones. The hegemony cruiser went first. Its energy cannons obliterated 50 drones in a spectacular display of firepower that drew appreciative rumbles from the crowd. When the Defiant's turn came, its weapons, while precise, destroyed barely 20 targets before depleting their charge. Polite silence fell over the observers, punctuated by barely concealed laughter from the hegemony section. Next, defensive capabilities, continued the announcer. The Inevitable Consequence activated its shields, easily absorbing a barrage from the testing array. The Defiant, however, employed no shields at all, instead executing a series of impossible maneuvers, avoiding 97% of incoming fire through pure speed and agility. Impressive dancing, Vraxen commented through the open channel. But wars aren't won by dodging. In the final demonstration, engine capabilities, the Defiant shocked observers by achieving 132% of the hegemony vessel's acceleration, despite its vastly smaller power core. At the post-exhibition reception, Vraxen approached Chen with calculated magnanimity. Your vessel performed better than expected in some categories, he conceded. Thank you, Admiral. Though I wonder why design ships with such limited offensive capability. It seems almost suicidal. Chen smiled enigmatically. We find that understanding one's true capabilities is often more valuable than advertising them. Later that evening, a junior hegemony engineer, intoxicated on fermented selkith, cornered his human counterpart. Your reactors are pathetically inefficient, he slurred. If you primitive mammals used quantum-coupled matrix technology like everyone else, you might actually build something dangerous. The human engineer nodded appreciatively. Fascinating. Please, tell me more about these quantum matrices. Meanwhile, in a secure facility beneath Europa's ice, Chief Engineer Ayako Nakamura reviewed the exhibition's sensor data. They still don't get it, she told the assembled Joint Chiefs via quantum entanglement. They think bigger cores mean more power. On the main screen, complex simulations showed the newly gathered hegemony technical specifications overlaid with human adaptation protocols. How soon can we implement? Asked the Fleet Admiral. Nakamura smiled. Phase 3 begins now. Emergency session of the Hegemony Council will commence, announced the Grand Arbiter, her 12 tentacles simultaneously activating the ancient ceremonial chimes. The massive council chamber, hewn from a single asteroid billions of years ago, filled with the holographic projections of 17 species representatives. High Admiral Vraxin materialized in his designated position, his chromatophores pulsing with the mandatory red-black pattern of crisis response. The central projection pit activated, displaying a star system 20 light-years from hegemony core space. "New horizon has fallen," stated the Grand Arbiter. "The Krell Empire launched a surprise offensive 14 hours ago. Their world ships have established orbital supremacy and planetary containment fields." Murmurs rippled through the council as data cascaded across their neural interfaces. New horizon. A terrestrial world, recently colonized by humans, with a small but growing population of 20,000. Also present, a hegemony diplomatic delegation of 63 officials, currently attending a resort-based trade summit. "The Krell Emperor has issued demands," continued the Arbiter, her voice modulation suggesting extreme distaste. "Complete withdrawal from disputed territories and reparations for alleged incursions. All hostages will be executed if terms are not met within 3 standard cycles." "What are disputed territories?" demanded the Floraxian representative, her pollen sacs releasing anxiety spores. "New horizon lies nowhere near established Krell space." "The Krell redefined disputed to mean desired," rumbled the Tellurian ambassador. "They'd done this before." Vraxin's middle arms performed the gesture requesting formal recognition. The Arbiter acknowledged him with a tentacle flourish. "The High Admiral recommends against military intervention," Vraxin declared, his chromatophores shifting to the formal patterns of strategic assessment. "New horizon possesses minimal strategic value. The 3 Krell world ships detected in orbit represent significant military assets. A direct confrontation risks escalation we cannot afford." "And the hostages?" inquired the Dorosan collective, their hive mind voice resonating from multiple simultaneous projections. Vraxin's skin darkened. "Regrettably expendable." The diplomats understood their risks. "As for the human colonists," he paused, "collateral damage is inevitable in galactic politics." The council chamber doors slid open unexpectedly, admitting a single human figure. Admiral Alina Chen strode directly to the center of the chamber, a protocol violation that triggered security alerts throughout the system. "Humanity rejects your assessment, Admiral Vraxin," she announced without preamble. "This council has not recognized you," hissed the Grand Arbiter. Chen ignored her. "Earth has dispatched a response fleet. We will retrieve our people." Stunned silence gripped the chamber. Vraxin's chromatophores involuntarily flashed with disbelief before settling into mottled patterns of condescension. "Admiral Chen," he said slowly, as if explaining to a child, "a human fleet against 3 Krell world ships would be less than ineffective. It would be suicide. We're prepared to take that risk." Each world ship carries approximately 700 major weapon emplacements, Vraxin continued. Their shields can withstand sustained bombardment from multiple dreadnoughts. Their fighter complement numbers in the thousands. "Thank you for your concern," Chen replied coolly. "Will the hegemony interfere with our rescue attempt?" The council representatives exchanged baffled glances. "We would not waste resources preventing your sacrifice," the Grand Arbiter finally stated. Chen nodded sharply and turned to leave. "Admiral," Vraxin called after her. Something, perhaps curiosity, perhaps a flicker of genuine concern, compelled him to follow her into the antechamber. "This is folly," he said privately. "You've seen our military assessments. Your vessels stand no chance." Chen studied him with an unreadable expression. "Sometimes, Admiral, the smartest predator isn't the one with the largest teeth." Vraxin's inner eyelids flickered with frustration. "At least allow me to provide Krell tactical data. To make your deaths meaningful." "Keep your data," Chen replied. Then, with a knowing smile, "We have everything we need." As she departed, Vraxin remained motionless, troubled by her confidence. For the first time, he wondered if humans were hiding something after all. "This is unprecedented," muttered the hegemony Minister of Information, his bioluminescent crown pulsing with agitation. Over 30 billion sentients across 17 species are simultaneously accessing the emergency broadcast. High Admiral Vraxin didn't respond. From his private observation suite aboard the monitoring station, he watched the 17 human vessels approach New Horizon. Against the backdrop of space, the 3 Krell world ships loomed like metal planets, each 100 kilometers in diameter. Massive weapons arrays dotted their surfaces like mountains on a horizon. "Begin recording my commentary," Vraxin instructed his neural interface. The human rescue attempt approaches its inevitable conclusion. While their bravery is commendable, their tactical judgment proves as limited as their vessel size. I predict complete destruction within. He never finished the sentence. The human vessels suddenly accelerated to velocities that the monitoring station's computers initially registered as sensor malfunctions. They arranged themselves in a precise 3-dimensional pattern that seemed mathematically perfect. "What formation is that?" demanded the tactical minister. "Unknown," replied the station's eye. "Pattern matches no known combat deployment." The Krell responded predictably, launching fighter swarms and activating their primary weapon arrays. Energy beams lashed out across space, only to miss their targets by meters as the human vessels executed synchronized position shifts that somehow anticipated each attack. "Impossible," Vraxin whispered. "Their reaction time exceeds neural transmission speeds. From the human ships, thousands of objects too small for standard sensors to identify deployed in clouds that resembled nebulae. The objects swarmed toward the world ships in coordinated waves. "Magnify Section 3, Vraxin ordered. The display zoomed in, revealing something that defied comprehension. Humans in individual combat suits, each barely 2 meters tall, maneuvering through space with impossible precision. They're boarding the world ships. The information minister's crown flashed with disbelief. Through microfractures in the hull shielding. The first Krell world ship suddenly went dark, its massive weapons arrays powering down. Then the second. Communications chatter from the Krell command frequencies dissolved into chaos before cutting off entirely. 57 minutes after the battle began, Admiral Chen's transmission reached the observation station. New Horizons secure. All hostages retrieved. Krell fleet neutralized. The broadcast ended, leaving stunned silence across 30 billion connected minds. In his private chambers later that night, Vraxin methodically reviewed the battle footage frame by frame. His chromatophores had locked into a discordant pattern of confusion that his species normally only displayed during religious revelation. The evidence couldn't be denied. The human vessels hadn't fired a single traditional weapon. Instead, they had deployed their personnel, in individual combat suits, directly into the Krell vessels through microscopic hull breaches that Krell sensors couldn't detect. But how had they coordinated such precision? Vraxin's analysis suggested some form of instantaneous tactical communication, yet human technology supposedly lacked quantum entanglement capabilities. His 7th arm activated a secure channel to the Grand Arbiter. "I require immediate clearance for travel to the Sol system," he stated without preamble. "Denied," replied the Arbiter. "The Council requires your assessment of the human tactical." "With respect," Vraxin interrupted, his chromatophores flashing the rarely used pattern indicating supreme urgency. "We have catastrophically misunderstood the humans. I must investigate personally." He closed the channel before she could respond further. Opening his personal storage vault, Vraxin removed a ceremonial battle dagger, passed down through 17 generations of his lineage. "Sometimes," he murmured, recalling Chen's words, "the smartest predator isn't the one with the largest teeth." The approach to Earth shattered every expectation Vraxin had constructed about humanity's homeworld. His personal shuttle, requisitioned against explicit council orders, detected no orbital defense platforms, no massive shipyards, none of the standard infrastructure of a spacefaring civilization. Instead, thousands of small satellites and structures orbited the blue-green planet, Most puzzling were the 6 massive rings encircling Earth at precise intervals, each humming with energy signatures unlike anything in hegemony databases. Identify, Vraxen commanded his eye. Unknown structures. Energy signature analysis inconclusive. Probable function. Transportation network. His vessel received automated landing coordinates for a facility on Earth's moon. Luna Base Alpha. As the shuttle touched down in an underground hangar, Vraxen noted dozens of human vessels undergoing maintenance. Their outer hulls had been removed, revealing internal components that contradicted everything Hegemony intelligence had reported. A human delegation awaited him. Not the diplomatic reception he expected, but armed guards who escorted him through sterile corridors to a chamber that immediately registered as a military tribunal. Admiral Chen sat among a panel of stern-faced officers. More surprising, she wore restraints on her wrists. High Admiral Vraxen, spoke a silver-haired human at the center. I am Fleet Admiral Quan. You've arrived during a sensitive proceeding. The Admiral is charged with unauthorized tactical disclosure, explained another officer, revealing classified human capabilities to alien powers. Vraxen's chromatophores involuntarily cycled through patterns of confusion. You're punishing her for the New Horizon victory. Victory isn't the issue, Quan replied. Operational security is. Vraxen stepped forward. I request to address this tribunal. After a brief consultation, Quan nodded. Proceed. Admiral Chen revealed nothing, Vraxen stated. I saw only what humans wanted the hegemony to see. My presence here proves this. His outer skin shifted to the truth-binding pattern of his species, a physiological state impossible to maintain while speaking falsehoods. Explain, Quan demanded. Until New Horizon, we believed human vessels were primitive. We assumed your technology followed standard developmental patterns. We were wrong. Vraxen gestured toward Chen. She didn't breach security. She executed a strategic deception authorized at the highest levels. The tribunal members exchanged glances. Continue, Quan said cautiously. You've been hiding your true capabilities since first contact. Vraxen's revelation pattern intensified. Your ships aren't warships at all. They're carriers for individual combat units. Your neural interface technology isn't primitive. It's revolutionary, allowing instantaneous tactical communication without quantum entanglement. A subtle shift occurred in the room. What else have you deduced, Admiral? Chen asked, her restraints suddenly deactivated. Your orbital rings aren't defensive. They're accelerators that launch your vessels without detectable energy signatures. You've sacrificed raw power for efficiency, developing technology precisely scaled to human capabilities rather than pursuing the brute force approach the hegemony favors. The tribunal chamber shimmered and dissolved, revealing a strategic command center. The trial had been a test. One Vraxen had apparently passed. Welcome to Luna Command, said Quan, extending his hand in the human greeting custom. You're the first non-human to see this facility. Why reveal this now? Vraxen asked. A technician interrupted, projecting the galactic map with an ominous red wave expanding from Krell space. Long-range sensors detected this 12 hours ago, Chen explained. The Krell are mobilizing their entire fleet, 50 world ships plus support vessels. They're targeting hegemony core worlds. The Council should be informed immediately, Vraxen insisted. It's already too late, Quan replied grimly. Conventional defenses can't stop a fleet of that size. Then why show me this? Vraxen demanded. Chen's expression softened. Because sometimes, Admiral, survival requires setting aside old assumptions. She gestured toward another chamber where humans floated in translucent pods, their minds linked through a technology Vraxen couldn't comprehend. This is how we defeated the Krell, she said. And with your help, it's how we'll save your people too. Hegemony emergency protocol activated. Civilian evacuation procedures engage. All military assets to defense positions. The automated announcements echoed through the majestic halls of the hegemony capital world. Action Prime, their calm delivery at odds with the panic erupting across the metropolis. In the Hegemony Strategic Command, chaos reigned. Holographic displays showed the impossible. 50 Krell world ships emerging from hyperspace at precise intervals throughout Hegemony territory. 3 core worlds already burned. Defense fleets, caught unprepared, had been obliterated in minutes. Reports from Cygnus Sector, a junior officer announced, her vestigial wings trembling. Orbital defenses breached. Planetary bombardment has begun. The Grand Arbiter's 12 tentacles worked furiously across control surfaces. Where is High Admiral Vraxen? His command codes are required for full military mobilization. The chamber doors slid open. Vraxen entered, flanked by Admiral Chen, and a team of humans wearing sleek bodysuits unlike any Hegemony uniform. "What is the meaning of this?" demanded the Grand Arbiter. "You disappear, then return with these primitives during our darkest hour." Vraxen's chromatophores displayed the emergency command pattern, overriding all protocol objections. "I am implementing Emergency Statute 7 Alpha. As High Admiral, I hereby transfer tactical command authority to Admiral Lina Chen of Earth." The chamber erupted in outrage. Security drones activated, weapons trained on the humans. "This is treason," shrieked the Minister of Defense. "The Krell attack, and you surrender to humans." "Not surrender," Vraxen replied calmly. "Survival." With a gesture from Chen, the humans activated devices on their wrists. The security drones immediately deactivated. "Your defensive strategy cannot succeed," Chen stated, approaching the Central Command interface. "The Krell has studied your tactics for centuries. They know exactly how you'll respond. And you have a better solution," sneered the Defense Minister. "Operation Acupuncture," Chen replied, interfacing with the Hegemony system. The holographic display transformed, showing thousands of tiny human vessels deployed in configurations that made no tactical sense to Hegemony commanders. "We don't destroy the world ships," she explained. "We neutralize them." The Grand Arbiter slammed a tentacle against the console. "This is madness. The Council will never." A massive explosion rocked the building. Emergency barriers slammed into place as atmosphere vented from adjacent chambers. "Krell advance forces have reached Axiom Prime," reported a sensor officer. "Estimated time to orbital supremacy, 17 minutes. "We don't have time for Council approval," Vraxen stated. "You have a choice, Grand Arbiter. Accept human assistance or oversee the extinction of the Hegemony." After an excruciating silence, the Arbiter's tentacles slumped in resignation. "Proceed." Chen immediately took command, her orders flowing with practiced precision. "Deploy all transports to the following coordinates: evacuation priority, Council leadership, scientific personnel, cultural repositories." The Hegemony officers stared in confusion. "You're abandoning Axiom Prime?" asked the Defense Minister incredulously. "Temporarily," Chen confirmed. "The Krell expect you to make a stand here. Instead, we're relocating command to Luna Base, while human forces implement the first phase of Operation Acupuncture." As the evacuation began, Councillor Trezix, an ancient Vorn with translucent skin, revealing his 3 hearts, approached Vraxen. "You betray your oath," he hissed, unsheathing a ceremonial blade. "I'll not flee while aliens command our forces." The blade arced toward Vraxen's primary heart, only to be intercepted by Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez, one of Chen's officers. The human collapsed, green poison from the blade spreading through her veins. "Get him to the transport," she gasped to Vraxen, her eyes already glazing. "Different doesn't mean wrong. Remember that." As medical personnel rushed forward, Vraxen knelt beside the dying human, his chromatophores displaying a pattern no Hegemony officer had ever seen before, one that had no name in his language, but that humans would recognize as profound grief. "I will remember," he promised. Luna Base Alpha's central operations hummed with activity as holographic displays tracked Operation Acupuncture across 17 star systems. The surviving Hegemony Council members watched in stunned silence as human vessels executed maneuvers their own navigators had declared physically impossible. Neural synchronization at 97%, announced Dr. Abrams, the lead interface scientist. Tactical mesh stable across all battle groups. Admiral Chen stood at the command podium, her consciousness partially linked to the battle network, while maintaining presence in the physical room. 5th Squadron reporting Krell command node disabled in the Procyon sector. World ship weapon systems offline. Vraxen studied the tactical displays, his analytical mind struggling to comprehend human battle doctrine. Instead of engaging the Krell world ships directly, human vessels deployed their specialized operatives to target specific subsystems. Navigation, communications, weapon controls, like neural surgeons rather than battlefield warriors. "It's a stalemate," observed the Grand Arbiter, her tentacles gesturing at the displays. "You've disabled some of their capabilities, but the world ships remain intact. They'll adapt." "A stalemate buys us time," Chen replied. "But you're right. We need something more." She turned to Vraxen, her expression resolute. "We need integration." Vraxen's chromatophores flickered with uncertainty. "You mean?" "Neural linking," she confirmed. Human tactical thinking combined with hegemony knowledge of Krell vulnerabilities. The hegemony officers recoiled. In their culture, merged consciousness represented the ultimate violation, a taboo so profound it transcended mere law. "Impossible," declared the defense minister. "The neural architecture is incompatible. Even if it weren't forbidden." "We've developed an adaptive interface," interrupted Dr. Abrams, activating a holographic model. "It can translate between human collective consciousness and hegemony hierarchical thought patterns." Chen faced Vraxen directly. "We need a volunteer." The chamber fell silent. Every hegemony official knew what she was asking. Not merely a technical interface, but a fundamental transformation of identity. "I will do it," Vraxen stated, his chromatophores shifting to the ceremonial pattern of ultimate commitment. Preparations moved swiftly. In the neural interface chamber, Vraxen reclined in a modified pod as technicians attached translucent connectors to his sensory nodes. "The process isn't perfect," Dr. Abrams warned. "Your consciousness will merge with 5 human pilots simultaneously. The experience can be overwhelming." "Proceed," Vraxen commanded. The neural link activated. Pain seared through Vraxen's mind as alien thought patterns invaded his consciousness. Human emotions, chaotic, intense, simultaneous, threatened to shatter his sanity. But beneath the chaos, he discovered something unexpected. A collective problem-solving capacity beyond anything the hegemony had achieved in millennia. Through the neural mesh, Vraxen experienced the battle directly. He saw through human eyes, felt their intuitive responses to threats, and contributed his encyclopedic knowledge of Krell tactical doctrine. The merged consciousness developed hybrid strategies no single species could conceive. During the climactic confrontation at Proxima Centauri, the Krell deployed their ultimate weapon, a dimensional rift generator capable of collapsing local spacetime. Standard doctrine offered no countermeasure. But the linked consciousness found a solution. Combining hegemony theoretical physics with human improvisational thinking, they reconfigured their shield harmonics to create a cascading resonance effect. The Krell weapon backfired catastrophically, crippling the flagship worldship. The momentum shifted. Across 17 fronts, hybrid tactics routed Krell forces. As the neural link dissolved after the victory, Vraxen emerged fundamentally transformed. His consciousness retained echoes of human thought patterns, their fierce joy in achievement, unexpected compassion for defeated foes, and boundless creativity. At the victory celebration on Axiom Prime, Vraxen approached the podium where leaders of both civilizations had gathered. An aide handed him a small plate containing a printed copy of his first transmission about human vessels. "Today," he announced, "I consume my words, Literally. He placed the edible document in his mouth and ceremoniously swallowed. Human ships, he declared to thunderous applause, are precisely what they need to be. It was our understanding that was small. 5 years after the Krell War, the inaugural graduation ceremony of the Integrated Species Academy took place on the slopes of Olympus Mons. The massive Martian mountain provided a dramatic backdrop for the gathering of 17 species representatives. The Academy itself represented something previously unimaginable, a training facility where diverse species learn not to overcome their differences, but to leverage them. Its architecture reflected this philosophy, each section designed for specific physiological needs while interconnecting in a harmonious whole. High Admiral Vraxen, now bearing an artificial human arm replacing the one lost during the final battle, surveyed the graduating class from the podium. His appearance had changed in other ways. Neurosurgical interfaces gleamed at his temples, permanent connections to human tactical networks that had altered his thought patterns irrevocably. When I first encountered human vessels, he began, his voice amplified across the assembly, I dismissed them as insignificant based on a single criterion: size. This error nearly cost us civilization itself. The graduates, a mix of humans, hegemony species, and even 3 rehabilitated Krell, listened intently. The Chen Vraxon paradigm that you have studied is not merely a military doctrine, he continued. It represents a fundamental reassessment of how sentient species interact with the universe and each other. He gestured toward the shipyard visible through the transparent dome, where vessels of radically different designs were under construction. 5 years ago, every hegemony vessel followed the same design philosophy: maximize size to project power. Today, our fleet encompasses hundreds of specialized designs, each leveraging the unique capabilities of its crew species. Admiral Chen joined him at the podium, wearing the newly created uniform of the Integrated Fleet Command. The hegemony once measured advancement by conformity, she added. Species were judged by how well they emulated established patterns. Humanity challenged this assumption, not through argument but demonstration. A holographic display activated, showing the engineering schematics for the new flagship, a vessel half the size of traditional hegemony dreadnoughts, but incorporating human neural interface technology with hegemony power systems and Derosin collective processing matrices. The universe rewards not the largest or strongest, Vraxen continued, but those best adapted to thrive within it. Adaptation means questioning everything, especially our most fundamental assumptions. As the ceremony concluded, a formation of ships roared overhead, a mix of human-designed interceptors, hegemony cruisers, and hybridized vessels piloted by neural-linked crews of multiple species. Later, as the celebrations continued, Vraxen and Chen stood alone on an observation platform watching Earth rise over the Martian horizon. The Council has approved your citizenship application, Chen informed him, handing over a small identification chip. You're officially the first non-human Earth citizen. Vraxen's chromatophores displayed a pattern of deep satisfaction as he accepted the chip with his human prosthetic arm, a physical embodiment of the integration he now represented. Was this your plan all along? He asked. From that first encounter, when you let me believe your ships were technologically inferior. Chen smiled enigmatically. We had hopes, not plans. Humanity learned long ago that the most rigid systems shatter under pressure. The adaptable ones evolve. And now we evolve together, Vraxen observed, his gaze shifting between Earth and Mars. 2 worlds that once seemed impossibly distant, now connected by shared purpose. I had faith in a simple truth, Chen replied, watching the last rays of sunlight glint off the fleet maneuvers above. Given enough time, even the most stubborn admiral can grow. Their laughter, one human, one alien, yet somehow harmonious, echoed across the Martian landscape as the first stars appeared in the darkening sky. To small ships, Vraxen offered, raising a glass in the human tradition. And expanding horizons, Chen completed, their glasses touching with a crystalline chime that seemed to resonate with possibility.